Cyclothymia. You just arrived at your favorite nightclub and all you can think about is how excited you'll be hearing music blaring over the speakers as you whine and grind on the dance floor. The only plan you have tonight is to get absolutely drunk and have a great time. But before you can even settle into your groove, your brain pulls a fast one and you suddenly feel the overwhelming urge to go home, bolt your doors, and crawl under your blanket. It's like your brain's party mode switch got flipped off faster than you can say tequila shots. This random and abrupt mood swing you've just experienced comes from an emotional disorder called cyclothymia. It's like your emotions are playing a game of ping pong and you're the ball. One minute you're feeling so excited you want to dance on top of the table while screaming your lungs out, and the next you're trying to become one with the floorboards. Cyclothymia isn't as intense as bipolar disorder, but it's just as uncomfortable, especially because they can be triggered in the same manner. Some people would even go on to develop bipolar disorder from this condition because your emotions are practically playing a high-stakes game of red light, green light. Hypomania. Hypomania literally leaves you feeling like a toddler who drank 10 cans of soda pop. For no reason at all, you'd suddenly be filled with an unexplained amount of energy that is beyond your usual range. It's as if someone replaced your batteries with nuclear reactors while you weren't looking. When this happens, your speech would become as rapid as someone who's being fast-forwarded, and your decisions would suddenly become a bunch of reckless and impulsive ideas like deciding to learn Icelandic at 3 a.m. or thinking it's a great idea to reorganize your sock drawer by color and thread count. However, because you're suddenly constantly at a speed that would put the Flash himself to shame, people might begin to get concerned. What they don't know is that you've got hypomania, which is when there's a sudden abnormal spike in your moods or behaviors that is clearly different from the normal way you would behave. If you have this condition, the episodes can last for days and sometimes even weeks. While being supercharged might sound like fun to someone, the constant high-speed chase of doing everything at warp speed can seriously mess with your sleep schedule and leave you feeling overwhelmed, tired, and frustrated. On the bright side, hypomania is not a condition severe enough to land you in the hospital, but sometimes it may progress to mania, which may require hospitalization. Overall, you'll still be needing some medication to help you relax better during these episodes. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. You've never liked having your period because ever since it started coming, that entire week would leave you feeling like your whole world is crumbling around you. Your mood has swung more times than a boxer trying to throw the winning punch. It's as if someone took your emotions and put them on a roller coaster set to turbo speed. One minute you're fine, and the next you're ready to cry because your favorite mug is dirty. Every little thing is an instant trigger for you, and you feel constantly exhausted, both emotionally and physically. It's like you're running a marathon, but the finish line keeps moving further away, and someone replaced your running shoes with lead boots. The premenstrual dysphoric disorder would push all your emotions to the very extreme. It's a severe form of premenstrual syndrome that shows up in the days leading up to your period. While regular PMS might just bring a little irritability or some cravings, PMDD is like PMS's dramatic sibling who makes a big scene. This emotional chaos doesn't just mess with your mood, it can also make you feel physically crummy. Think bloating, fatigue, and aches that make you want to hide under a blanket until it's over. This extreme condition is even enough to ruin your relationships or disrupt your work. Because of how difficult it is to regulate your emotions during PMDD, doctors will prescribe certain medications to relieve your symptoms and stabilize you enough to face the actual main course of the month, your period. Apathy. So, you've always felt disconnected from the world and show little or no emotion or reaction to things, not even the job that funds your current lifestyle. Even making simple life decisions always feels like too much effort, so you always pick the easiest route where you can just drag your feet through and get it over with. Choosing between cereal or toast for breakfast? That's a level of commitment you're just not ready for. You're literally like a grumpy senior citizen with an uncomfortable itch on your back that you can't reach. Except in this case, the itch is life itself, and your back scratcher is perpetually out of reach. Over time, you've grown to accept this as a part of you. Well, the thing is, you have a condition known as apathy. It's like someone hit the meh button on on your emotions and then superglued it in place. This is a disorder that makes life totally meaningless. You don't care about anything or anyone. You have no feelings toward your job, your relationships, your family, or even your society. The thing is, you actually try to care, but you simply just can't give two fucks because, in your opinion, nothing has really been worth the effort so far. It's like trying to get excited about watching paint dry in slow motion on a black and white TV. This condition is caused when there is some damage to the parts of your brain that are responsible for your social reactions and behaviors. So this isn't just you being lazy or bored, you simply cannot control it because your brain's enthusiasm department went on an extended coffee break and forgot to come back. And often, it's a symptom of a much more serious condition like schizophrenia or Alzheimer's disease. Dysthemia. Now, if you have dysthemia, also known as persistent depressive disorder, then you most likely always feel like there's a cloud of sadness hovering over you every single moment. You've got a horrendous case of the blues. We're talking indigo, navy, and midnight all rolled into one mood. At first, you think you just need to make yourself happy to snap out of it, but even a bowl of your favorite ice cream flavor and several reruns of your favorite movie don't seem to bring you joy. You see, living with dysthemia feels like you're perpetually stuck in the quicksand of sadness. You often feel difficulty concentrating on anything at all for long periods of time, and as a result, you can develop low self-esteem because the more you try to do things that will spark joy, the deeper you sink into sadness. With PDD, every day feels like the Monday morning after a fun weekend. Medical professionals describe it as a long-lasting case of depression, where if a person with depression feels overwhelmed with sadness for 2 weeks, but a person with dysthemia would feel overwhelmed with sadness for 2 years. It's like depression decided to go on an extended vacation in your brain and forgot to check out. Over 1.5 million people are diagnosed with PPD yearly, and there's no laid-out cure for it. However, treatments like therapy and medication can help manage the symptoms so you don't have to feel like you're stuck in an emotional black hole forever. Borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is like the house guest from hell that you never invited, even when you're having the worst day ever, because once it arrives, it settles in like it's got squatter's rights to your mind. The condition comes with a mission to shake things up and leave a mess in your living room, but in this case, the living room would be your head. It usually creeps in after you've experienced some form of trauma, and suddenly you begin to feel waves of uncertainty about things you're sure you knew, almost like a magician is playing tricks and bending the rules of what your reality really is. The worst part is that you'd end up feeling unsure about how people think about you and have an intense fear of abandonment that'd make you push everyone who loves you away because you're scared they'll leave you first. One minute you want to have fun with everybody, demanding and showing more love than a golden retriever at a family reunion, and the next minute you'd rather be cooped up in your bedroom because you feel like everyone will abandon you faster than passengers on the Titanic. It can become exhausting to live with this disorder, but your symptoms can be managed with the right treatment. Think of it as putting your brain through rehab to kick its drama addiction. Manic Episodes. It's been 2 weeks since you went to the college party that has turned you into the talk of campus, because immediately you got there, a flip suddenly switched up in your brain and you felt an unexplainable urge to grab the microphone from the MC and start yelling. Not only this, but you literally ordered drinks for everyone, jumped from one spot in the room to the other like a caffeinated kangaroo, stripped, and jumped into the pool even though you were extremely scared of water. It was like your fear of H2O suddenly evaporated, along with your inhibitions. You can't really explain what triggered the craziness from that night, but at that moment, you honestly felt like you were on top of the world, like you were Tarzan in the jungle, free, reckless, and completely unhinged. This is exactly what having a case of manic episode feels like. It's like someone cranked your personality up to 11, then broke off the dial. It's basically a period of abnormally elevated changes in your mood, and when it starts, you suddenly feel extremely energized and begin to act completely over the top. Your mind races faster than a Formula One car, jumping from thought to thought in a whirlwind of creativity and ambition. You might start a bunch of new projects, make grand plans, and even decide that now is the perfect time to reorganize reorganize your entire house. Manic episodes can be extremely major and can lead you to make impulsive, reckless decisions that could seriously affect you. Sometimes you would need to seek medical attention to be able to live a normal life. Emotional unstable personality disorder. You're in a serious meeting that could potentially change the direction of the company you work for when you suddenly feel a strong urge to interrupt your colleagues mid-speech and share an intense opinion you feel from the topic they're brushing on. It might be logical to just wait for a bit, but the thing is, if you don't say what you feel you need to say in that moment, you might just burst into tears from feeling unheard, creating an awkward scene in the middle of the meeting. It's like trying to hold in a sneeze during a silent meditation retreat, bound to end in disaster. This intense feeling is what having an emotionally unstable personality disorder feels like. It's like having an emotional weather system that's constantly changing and you're caught without an umbrella. Basically, you always feel immensely anxious and overwhelmed if you don't express how you feel the very minute you feel it. But you don't only break down if you're not given a chance to express how you feel, you can also burst into tears as you're busy trying to express yourself. Nearly everything that happens to you leaves you feeling like you're a toddler who just got their favorite piece of candy snatched away and you can't help but sulk because of it. EUPD makes it hard to keep a steady course. Your emotions can flip like a light switch, and what was a minor inconvenience to someone else might feel like a major catastrophe to you. Echolalia. If you've ever had a toddler following you around and repeating every single word you say, then you have a fairly good idea of what echolalia is. It's like living with a mini-me that's stuck in copycat mode, but this time it's literally your brain. The reality of this disorder is much worse because your brain is basically stuck in a loop. Imagine your mind as a DJ who only knows how to play one track, and that track is whatever anyone else just said. Severe echolalia is basically a neurological disorder that turns your brain into a parrot, repeating every sound and word you hear without control. You don't even need to echo some other person. You can always seem to echo yourself. It might seem funny at first, but after you've echoed yourself for several days, all you want is for it to stop. But by now, your brain is a broken record playing the same words and phrases over and over again. It affects the quality of your speech tremendously, and it's common in children who have autism. It can also be a secondary effect of some other disorders such as Tourette syndrome, but because it's not as severe, even though it doesn't seem likely, it is possible to live a normal life. Just think of yourself as a human music box with the same playlist. With observation, speech therapy, and support from your doctor and loved ones, you can find a way to overcome it. Emotional disorders are definitely exhausting, but the one thing that'll always keep you in a good mood is our Discord server. So join today. DID. Imagine you've been zapped with some kind of ray gun that automatically splits you into multiple versions of yourself. Your mind instantly becomes a maze trying to figure out which direction is best to go in. If this sounds familiar, then you might have a disorder called dissociative personality disorder, and as a result, you're convinced that there are multiple people trapped in your body. Your brain is now a battlefield with all your personalities fighting for control, and whoever wins gets to navigate your interactions for the day. You realize soon after that these personalities are called alter egos, and for some weird reason, you may or may not have control of whatever they make you do. It feels like the part of your brain controlling who you think you are is scattered into a puzzle, and you have no idea how to start fixing the pieces together. This disorder occurs in anywhere from 0.5% to 2% of the population, and these are just people who are willing to get diagnosed. The rest are probably still arguing with themselves about whether to make an appointment. Researchers think that this disorder isn't really you splitting into multiple personalities, but are just different parts of one identity that aren't working together properly because of some trauma you may have experienced early in life. It's like your brain threw a party, but all the guests are you and they're not getting along. On the bright side, it's possible to control your many personalities and live a normal life moving forward, but you would need to consult your doctor and go through some therapy to achieve that. Factitious disorder. So, you called your entire family to the emergency room again because you believed that you had a brain injury and needed surgery immediately. However, only your mom shows up because, well, she's your mom. The rest of your family is already used to your antics, so they know you're lying about your condition. They've probably started a betting pool on what your next emergency will be. This is because you've been pulling this sick card for years now just to gain attention and sympathy. You're like the boy who cried wolf, except instead of wolves, it's various exotic diseases. Unfortunately, you can't stop because you actually have a condition called factitious disorder. disorder. The thing is, people with this disorder don't just want to get out of a busy day at the office, they quite literally want to be admitted into the hospital and be cared for, and they sometimes do whatever it takes to achieve this status. But even though you know that you're not completely honest about your health status, you don't know why exactly you feel you want that sort of attention. You're just thrilled by memorizing all the medical terms you can't wait to use at your next appointment, and you're eager to go under the knife as many times as you possibly can. You've even got a tattoo picked out to cover up the scar afterward. It's like you're collecting surgeries the way some people collect stamps. There's no specific cause for this disorder, but it can be triggered by some traumatic life experiences that could affect your brain.